See how AutoTrader's suite of delivery solutions makes it easier than ever to promote your vehicle delivery services. Expand your sales footprint and close more deals.
This is Automotive Industry News.
Hello and welcome to Automotive Industry News. I'm Veronica Campus. Our top stories: an in-depth look at the state of the used vehicle market, from a high-level overview to the boots on the ground, and Porsche sets an unusual land speed record. But first, a quick update on what's happening around the auto industry. 3 months after General Motors CEO Mary Barra announced America's largest automaker would produce only electric vehicles by 2035, the president of GM's North American operations said that's a goal, not a promise. In an interview with Automotive News, Steve Carlisle said GM will continue making gas-powered vehicles at the time if there is still consumer demand for them. He said the EV target is a call to action for the entire industry. "We're all in, but we need other people to join us," he said, adding, "We intend to win wherever we're competing, and irrespective of propulsion system." Prices continue to rise throughout the used vehicle industry, from retail lot to the auction. You can add trade-in values to that list. According to the latest data from Edmunds, trade-in prices reached an all-time high in March, as the average value for all used vehicles traded in surpassed $17,000. That's up from just over $14,000 a year earlier. And what does the future of the auto industry look like? According to SEMA's 2021 Vehicle Landscape Report, it looks a lot like a CUV. The Aftermarket Equipment Association's report projects that by 2028, 82% of all new light vehicles purchased in the U.S. will be trucks, SUVs, and crossover vehicles. CUVs by themselves are expected to make up about half of all new vehicles sold by that year. Automotive Industry News will return after this.
AutoTrader has all your display solutions and can drive 21.5 more VDPs per car on average. Dominate your market with Alpha Elite, get more exposure with ELOT, and re-engage shoppers across the web with advanced ads. Get more impact with AutoTrader's display solutions.
For more than a year, COVID-19 has dominated every aspect of life, including the used vehicle industry. But as more Americans are vaccinated and life begins to return to normal, our industry finds itself in a curious place. Demand is high, but supply is short. Wholesale prices have soared to record levels and are still rising. Sales have made a rapid and dramatic shift online, likely changing the process forever. To help sort all that out, NIADA Vice President of Industry Insights and Analysis Larry Dixon and NIADA Senior 20 Group Moderator Chuck Bonanno are here to give us an assessment of the state of the used car industry.
Larry, as the nation begins to emerge from the pandemic, can you give us a big picture sense of where the used vehicle market stands?
Yeah, the used vehicle market, it's incredibly strong at the moment. In fact, it's absolutely white hot in terms of prices and demand. Used vehicle demand has been on the rise, or was on the rise prior to the pandemic, really due to higher new vehicle prices, major gains in quality and durability, and increased competition among dealers for used vehicle inventory. Yeah, there was a large drop off in used sales in March and April of 2020 in response to the onset of the pandemic. But used sales really exploded after the fact due to pent-up demand and the receipt of COVID-related stimulus. Fast forward to today, some of the same conditions are at play. The latest round of stimulus provides a qualifying family of four up to $5,600, which, when you combine that with the receipt of federal tax refunds, gives consumers a substantial amount of money to put down on a used vehicle. And while demand is sky high, used supply is trending lower, especially late model used supply. So why is used supply trending lower? Well, one, because demand's been so strong. This reduces inventory levels. And then two, there were fewer new sales in the rental fleets last year, which means that there are going to be far fewer used 1 to 2 year old vehicles entering the market this year. And three, finally, folks are increasingly hanging on to their leased vehicles because used vehicle prices are so high. So the actual value of their vehicle exceeds that of the contract residual. So it makes sense for them to hang on to their leased vehicles. So that means that there are fewer 3-year-old units entering the market.
Wholesale prices have been climbing for close to a year now, rising to record levels. Are there any signs about when that might end or at least slow down? And assuming it does, how far will prices come down? What's the new baseline?
Put prices into context, Manheim's used vehicle value index jumped almost 6% from February to March, hitting an all-time high. And that 6% month over month jump, it's unprecedented. Quite frankly, I've been doing this, looking very closely at used vehicle demand and prices for over 20 years. You simply don't see that. Also, in their latest report, Manheim stated there's no sign yet of acceleration peaking and that they expect another 6 to 8 weeks of increases to their index. So that would take us through June. That said, Black Book stated in its April 13 market update that prices were still growing, albeit at a slower pace. So that could portend a slower rate of growth moving forward, and then ultimately prices would start to come down following that. To be clear, prices will not collapse. There are simply too many tailwinds in play for that to occur. But settling on a new baseline, that's something of a challenge given the dynamic nature of the pandemic and the economy overall. But I could certainly see prices falling back to where they were at the end of 2020 by the third quarter of this year.
Look down the road to the end of 2021. What do you see the used vehicle market looking like?
The used market will remain incredibly strong. It's a fact that used vehicle supply will be lower and demand will remain elevated. A recovery in new vehicle production and inventory will provide a bit of a headwind to used demand, but this will be more than made up for by a much stronger economy. And there should be more of a typical relationship between used wholesale and retail prices by year's end, which currently they're very, very tight. That relationship is very close. As that relationship goes back to normal, that will help improve gross profit margins for dealers, but margins will probably stay tighter than otherwise. So it's going to remain critical for dealers to buy the right car for a given consumer demographic and to keep turn rates as fast as they possibly can. I'd like to point out that dealers will learn more about these topics among many, many others during NIADA's annual convention in San Antonio this August the 23rd through August the 26th. Long story short, the used market will stay hot, but it will remain highly competitive at the same time.
Chuck, we heard Larry talk about skyrocketing costs of inventory. How are independent dealers handling that? And how has it affected margins and profitability?
Well, it's different for the different types of dealers. Those who are in specialty, highline, and exotics, they're doing just fine. That's been a very specialized market. Those who are in the trucks and SUV world of retail are either having to pay the price and then get it out of the consumer through higher pricing and larger down payments. The buy here, pay here dealers who are capitalized, well capitalized, they are stepping up to buy the cars and get them out on the road making payments. It's been very challenging as far as margins go because those customers who need financing are dealing with banks who are still using valuation guides that are lagging based on the prices they're seeing at the auctions, having to get more down payment, and that has affected sales in some of those areas.
We've heard a lot about the digital acceleration of auto sales during the pandemic. How smoothly has that gone for the independent dealers? And what does the future look like in terms of digital retailing?
Sure. Well, the pandemic last spring and the lockdowns, the subsequent lockdowns, forced dealers into a digital retailing world. Maybe they weren't all ready for it. Some were doing it before, but necessity is the mother of invention. And I think our independent dealers did a great job of shifting to online sales, remote delivery of cars. The challenge still now is dealers are ready. Customers are actually enjoying the process out there. Now we've got to get state and local governments to be able to do digital signatures and not require wet ink on everything. So when they catch up, I think it'll be fine. I think the dealers have really enjoyed doing the appointment process where it's not 1,000 people in your dealership at once and then nobody for 7 hours. Now they can schedule everybody in and keep a nice even flow. So I think they're excited about that for the long term.
What other issues are dealers facing as we come out of the COVID era?
We're going to have a tough supply of cars, which means you're either going to have to step up and pay or sit on the sideline. I know a lot of our dealers went out and wholesaled a lot of their inventory, which at the time made financial sense, but now they find themselves with very low inventory levels. And the number of cars you have to sell creates the traffic to sell cars. So it's kind of a tough situation to be in. Long term, I think everyone's feeling really good about the world. The economy seems to be strong and consumers have some confidence, so they're ready to buy. We just got to get the whole ball rolling as far as the wholesale markets. We've also got to have the lease returns get up to normal levels and the fleet sales get up to normal levels. And then the repossessions from the banks have to start up again so that we can get a better supply of cars. I think once we get through this time frame with a very, very tight supply of cars. Long term, I think the dealers are very excited and planning for a very profitable future.
We'll be right back.
AutoTrader has all your display solutions and can drive 21.5 more VDPs per car on average. Dominate your market with Alpha Elite, get more exposure with ELOT, and re-engage shoppers across the web with advanced ads. Get more impact with AutoTrader's display solutions.
Automakers and tuners across the globe have long been competing to produce the world's fastest motor vehicle, testing their creations on long open stretches like airport runways and Bonneville salt flats. But those projects are only aimed at the outdoor speed record. But that's just half of the land speed record. The other half is the indoor record, which might just be the more challenging mark to break, considering you first must find an indoor space large enough to even attempt it. The indoor record for a motor vehicle was established in 2011 by Tanner Faust in a rally-modified Ford Fiesta. 2 years later, Finnish rally driver Mikko Hirvonen hit 86.99 miles per hour in a custom lightweight crosskart to break Faust's mark by a mere 200 miles per hour. And that record stood until this year. The title of fastest vehicle indoors now belongs to Porsche, which sent a stock version of its electric Taycan Turbo S to the New Orleans Convention Center to let driver Lee Keen take a shot at the record. The Taycan was chosen because of its remarkable acceleration. It goes from 0 to 60 in just 2.4 seconds. The car's tires were heated just before the record run to help with traction on the convention center's slick concrete floor. Racing between rows of support beams in one of the longest buildings in America, Keen hit a top speed of 102.6 miles per hour to smash the previous record.
That's pretty fast for indoors.
That's all for this edition of Automotive Industry News. Thanks for watching. I'm Veronica Canvas.